presentation of TFNN. Time to talk about your health. Living a primal lifestyle.
You know, we have Tom from Tampa on the phone. Hey, Tom. Good morning. It's bright and early now, huh?
Hey, Paige. Good.
Hi, Tom.
How you guys doing, Nico?
Doing great.
Good. Hey, your newsletter's outstanding, man. I'm telling you, man, it is outstanding. And so is the Primal. I love that stuff. I'd never be without it. I mean, I've been on it now 3-4 months, man. I mean, it's just, I can't get over how good I feel.
Primal Edge is, people are raving about it. People who are trying it, they know because you can feel it.
Would not be without it.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now your hosts, Nico Haan and Paige Clarke.
Well, hello, good morning. Welcome to Living a Primal Lifestyle, where we explore a return to a more natural, balanced, wild world.
To recover our natural health and to regain our rights and our freedoms, I'm Nico Haan.
And I'm Paige Clarke. It's a beautiful day here in Clearwater. I'm not sure what...
79 degrees.
Oh, thank you for checking. Yeah, we live in paradise, and I'm sure it's paradise where you're living too. And we're taking your questions. You can reach me at paige@tfnn.com.
And Nico at TFNN.com. And we're taking your phone calls, of course, at 877-927-6648. I wanted to start off today with talking about the confronting the confusion of nutrition and fitness, and this is an article that's written by Tim Rice.
I think this is a very well-written article, and it really paints a great picture of how we got where we are.
That's why I like it too. It says here that 3 life-threatening health conditions, all in different stages of development, all with the same cause. That's obesity, diabetes, and Alzheimer's.
Could they all be related? And many doctors are starting to understand that they are, because they really are diseases that have to do with the metabolic mishap as it relates to sugars.
Yeah, and it's interesting because in the beginning it says here, as far as back as the 1800s, our country was really on the right track with regards to the treatment of obesity. Back in 1825, a guy published the Psychology of Taste, in which he says that the second of the chief causes of obesity is the floury and starchy substances which man makes his prime ingredients of his daily nourishment.
Yeah, and then shortly after that, in the mid-1800s, William Banting published his famous book, Letter of Corpulence, addressed to the public. And this was considered to be the world's first diet book, where they actually were discussing diet. And he believed, like so many others, that weight gain was a result of eating too many fattening carbohydrates. And in fact, most of the books through the entire 1800s and into the early 1900s, diets were low and refined carbohydrates were what were the accepted standard to overcome obesity.
And by the 1950s, it was considered to be standard advice. And Benjamin Spock, not Mr. Spock, but Dr. Spock, in 1946 says, rich desserts can be omitted without risk and should be by anyone who is obese or trying to reduce. The amount of plain, starchy foods, cereals, breads, potatoes taken is what determines how much weight they gain or lose. Simple as that, folks.
Simple as that. And then what was introduced was the idea of calorie counting, and there were some other books that kind of started to encourage this. And then in 1972, John Yudkin published Pure, White, and Deadly, How Sugar is Killing Us, and further educated the medical community on the evils of sugar and its effects on the collective health. And then Dr. Atkins' Diet Revolution came out, which was kind of a solution to this. Let's get away from the sugar. Let's get back to proteins and fats. Yeah. And it was one of the fastest growing books in dietary reading
And many
history.
people did amazing things on that diet book. And the only thing that Atkins I had trouble with in the beginning was, of course, the quantity of protein.
Right, and I think that was where it was a little off skew.
Yeah, it was a little off
now.
skew because he didn't look at the protein as far as threatening for longevity.
Yeah,
and
it's stressful on the kidneys.
Yeah, and the other thing that he didn't really qualify was the health of the food itself or the animals that you were eating.
And that was really the beginning of where the food went downhill in the 70s.
In a sense, it did, because the people were eating hamburgers and going to fast food restaurants and just taking out the taking out basically the carbohydrates.
Right, and that's what it says here. The tables started to turn, and in response to the popularity of Dr.
Yeah.
Atkins' book in the 1973, the American Medical Association's Council on Foods and Nutrition published a blistering attack on Dr. Atkins' ideas, and many physicians had developed the unfounded belief that the high-fat content of the diets would lead to heart attacks and strokes solely on that misguided 7-country study that really should have never been published in
No,
the
it was
first
actually
place.
21 or 22 countries that he had included in the study and omitted because they didn't say what he wanted them to say.
Right, and only used the 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, its conclusions were derived in a manner that really should have prevented the publication of it in the first place. But that's what led to the theory that cholesterol and fat were the cause of heart disease, and it was misfounded. And what's the result? We've been on a multi-decade disaster.
Yeah, by 1977, bad science had officially invaded the mainstream and demonized the dietary fat that took hold. And the debate was settled. It was a result of scientific discovery that they thought, but it really wasn't. It was really by government decree. George McGovern's Select Committee on Nutrition and Human Needs declared the dietary goals for the United States, and this is when we started getting the food pyramid involved, wasn't it?
Crazy. And remember, there's only really 3 macronutrients:
Yes.
fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. And everything that we eat falls into one of those 3 categories. And what happened is when all of a sudden all of this indoctrination came out that fats were bad, the food companies had to come up with a solution if they were going to be taking fat out. So there we saw the proliferation of the carbs, what I call the Franken foods,
Yeah, because
the food-like merchandise.
Right. If they started including just the good fats, it'd be more expensive. If they started including more protein, that would be more expensive. But luckily, carbohydrates are kind of like a cardboard box. Not much
Literally.
nutrition, easy to
Cheap.
assimilate
Cheap,
and
cheap.
put it in foods. Yeah, very cheap for sure. And this is when the thing really started to go wrong.
Yeah, I love this. These guidelines changed not only the way Americans ate, but changed the way Americans thought as well. Over the course of the past 40 years, we have collectively sat back and watched as heart disease, cancer, obesity, diabetes, and dementia has trended upwards in epic proportion. And believe it or not, to this day, a majority of doctors and health professionals will continue to substantiate this bad science in spite of its 4 years of detrimental results and failure. And
4 decades, actually.
4 decades. Folks, that's why we're so interested in helping you become self-empowered, because we still have this disinformation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark Twain has a nice quote here. It's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled.
Oh, that is my quote.
That's pretty cool,
I love
yeah.
that. I really
Yeah.
love that. You know, Mark Twain has so many bits of wisdom. He really
did?
does.
Yeah.
You could just go on
Him and
forever.
Walt Whitman, those
Yeah.
guys, they were powerful. So here we are, the old and the new clash together, and we're kind of stuck in this. We know that insulin is the hormone most responsible for triggering fat storage.
And carbohydrates just call for that insulin.
Yeah, and the double whammy in the equation is that because the trigger is set when you're spiking your insulin by the carbohydrates get stored with the help of the insulin, but also insulin gets stored at the same time. And the third thing may be that insulin is always overproduced as a mechanism for safety. Because it is
and then
emergency.
that wears out the pancreas. And the
Yes.
pancreas has other enzymes that are required. Enzymes are catalysts, and if the enzyme's so busy pumping out insulin, it gets worn out.
That's
and then
right.
it can't really be served when it's really needed.
That's right.
So this is interesting stuff. We're going to have to take a break, though.
Yeah, and I've been working on my new newsletter coming out. I got a lot of stuff in there we talked about the last couple of weeks, so you can dig a little bit deeper. Please pick that up. The number here is 877-927-6648. You know what's cool? Taking something that's good for you. Something specifically formulated to help with weight loss, better sleep, stress reduction, and the need to detox.
Nico, our hunter and gatherer ancestors found all their nutritional requirements for health in their wild environment. But today, our food sources no longer contain the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients our bodies need to stay healthy and strong.
That's why we need Primal Edge Daily Nutrition. It includes a special blend of ionic, soil-based vitamins, minerals, fatty, and amino acids in an easy-to-use liquid form.
Primal Edge is powered by highly concentrated fulvic and humic acids, nature's preferred delivery system. They have been called miracle molecules because, like sunlight, air, and water, life cannot exist without them.
That's right, Paige. They ensure we receive all the nutrition we need to be healthy and thrive. We take it every morning.
Primal Edge, formulated and approved by Nico and Paige of Living a Primal Lifestyle. Buy it today for just $89. Click on the Primal Edge banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Platinum, grains, crude oil, gold, copper, cattle, hogs, gasoline, natural gas, coffee, cotton, cocoa, and sugar. These are just some of the commodities mentioned in the most recent issue of Andy Hecht's Techno-Mental Commodity Report. Andy publishes his weekly newsletter every Thursday morning, where he breaks down the commodity market and provides his subscribers with specific trading recommendations based on his trading methodology. By signing up for a free trial to the Techno-Mental Commodity Report, you'll get a full 30 days to try out this powerful newsletter service and see for yourself the types of trades Andy has recommended for his subscribers. When you sign up for a 30-day free trial, you're under no obligation to pay anything. And should you decide to continue, you will lock in the low rate of only $79 a month. Sign up right now for the Techno-Mental Commodity Report and make sure you're ready to catch the next big trade in commodities. For more information and to get started today, visit the front page of TFNN.com.
Are China A-shares hot or not? If you trade China A-shares, now may be time to take a closer look. Trade CHAU or CHAD, Directions Daily CSI 300 China A-share Bull and Bear ETFs. China A-shares in either direction. Visit directioninvestments.com today. An investor should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Direction shares carefully before investing. The prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction shares. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, please contact Direction shares at 866-476-7523. The prospectus or summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors. Distributor Foreside Fund Services, LLC.
Nico and Paige take your phone calls now. Toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044.
Welcome back to the show, folks. Nico and Paige here on Living a Primal Lifestyle. I remind everybody to pick up some Primal Edge. I can talk
I'm
here.
still drinking my coffee this morning.
So we're talking about this great article, which is called Confronting the Confusion World of Nutrition and Fitness, and we kind of gone down to the road till about the mid-'70s, where we kind of started to realize that hormone, that insulin is responsible for triggering the fat storage, and that carbohydrates make you fat.
Can we show this in the tiger den? This is a great graph. The upward trend began. And what you can see, folks, here is that really in the 70s we started to see the emergence of obesity. We really, in significant numbers, had not really seen that because we were wise enough to know that it was the carbs that were the issue. It was when we were being informed by our medical people that fats were the problem, then obesity happened. And then came along diabetes as a result. And now we're seeing this staggering increase in Alzheimer's, probably something that nobody even knew of 200 years ago.
Definitely not. And
I call it diabetes type 3. That's what we know. It's a insulin resistance in the brain.
Interesting about this page, there's a 20-year gap between each of this, and we always talk about that.
Pottinger's cats.
Exactly. What we're doing is we're slowly deteriorating, and we don't really know it.
We're deteriorating our gene deck, which is what Dr. Pottinger, if you research Dr. Pottinger's cats, he showed that cats that ate food that was not their natural diet, it only took a few generations.
Yeah, in cats, because they only live 10, 12, 15 years.
Right, and our generations are 20.
Yeah, we're living 70 years, 80 years, 100 years, but it takes 20 years to realize what's going on. So if you're eating a bad diet for 20 years or more, the next 20 years is what's happening. So the first 20 years, you're probably going to gain a lot of weight. The next 20 years, you're going to be right into diabetes, and then pretty soon you won't remember a darn thing, so it won't matter anymore.
It's very sad. So that really is the kind of the big picture.
So that's the big picture.
So we talk about the first the first epidemic, obesity. Obesity started trending in the 70s.
And here's another chart here.
And this is an interesting thing. In 1970, only 1 in every 10 Americans were obese. Today, this has progressed to 1 in every 3.
We're at the top of the chart.
Yeah.
We're on top of a lot of things, but this is not one we want to be on top of. England is not too far behind, and then we have Australia coming up in the ranks, and then we have Spain and all the rest of the countries slowly going, but heading towards that, because basically they were doing the same thing. But maybe they have a head start on us because now the information is out and becoming much more mainstream. I mean, 5 years ago when you joined us, we were kind of at the cutting edge, but now we're getting all these different things that's saying we were probably on the right path.
It's so funny. A lot of people send me emails and texts all the time, and it's like a validation. Oh, you told me this years ago.
Yeah,
you told me this years ago, and now I see it.
I do that. I get the same darn thing from our listeners, and it's a wonderful thing that we know, of course, that you're listening, and we know that you're thinking along the lines that we are. So.
And it's all about us all being healthier so we can live longer and stronger. So number 2, epidemic diabetes. These are the statistics, folks. The statistics started trending upwards in the 1990s. In the 1990s, diabetes affected only 3% of the population. Today, it affects 10%, and that's even possibly undiagnosed.
Yeah, here's the
diabetes is projected to affect 1 in every 3 Americans.
New
by
cases right
1950.
here. These are from 18 to 79 years old from 1980 to 2009. You can see how steep.
It was a
this
4
is
times
getting.
increase from
Yeah.
400 number in thousands to,
Yeah, so we want this thing to go down
2
naturally.
million.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And then number 3, of course, 10 years later is the epidemic of Alzheimer's disease. And the data on Alzheimer's disease started trending upwards in 2010 and has just started its statistical upswing. And you can take a look at that chart. This is quite frightening,
Well, we've got 106.23 million people with Alzheimer's. That's is this
Hard.
worldwide? I'm not sure what this is. This must be worldwide. It doesn't really say here, does it? I mean, it can't be just the United States because we only have 350
No,
million
I think
people.
that would be worldwide.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the statistic of disease in millions. It really is frightening. So you don't have to just take our word for this, folks. What we see is the statistics are panning out, that the foods that we have been told, have been taught, have been indoctrinated. Isn't that an interesting word, indoctrinated? Have been indoctrinated to believe are not healthy foods. So do your own research and start making the right choices. You don't have to believe everything you read on the internet, but quite frankly, don't believe everything you see on the TV either. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do it my way, where I'm eating a lot less carbs. But there are different ways. I was listening to a podcast on Dr. Pompa.
Yes.
And he had Ben Greenfield, who is a young athlete, and he is totally in ketosis.
Yet he eats...
He eats a lot of greens, and I was really, when I was listening to this, I thought, oh my goodness, this is really completely different than I'm doing it. He eats meat or fish maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Right.
He does eat a lot of greens, and mostly he eats them with either a big salad or he takes his vegetables and he puts them in a blender like a Vitamix and grinds them all up. He doesn't juice them.
Right.
He grinds
Eats
them.
the smoothie, eats the fiber.
And then he eats them like with a spoon almost because it's so thick. And he is putting kind of things like nuts and everything like that. And for me, it was a little bit confusing because I know our body does things to our fat differently if you're eating vegetables and fruits. It's a different kind of fat. Your body has to work a little bit harder. You also have to eat more. And that's the real difference.
He eats a lot.
He eats a lot. He kind of grazes along during the day. He has one meal, big, and then he grazes most of the time. But he's a high-fledged athlete. I mean, he's still active. He's still doing racing and things like that. He does bike, triathlons, all kinds of things. And he has a big fitness. He's got a big site on there, and he's doing lots of things. Busy, busy man. Of course, I'm a different stage of my life, and he's a young guy probably at his stage of 27, 28. I'm not sure what his age is. A lot different than being 71, 72 like I am.
But what I like about what you're saying is Ben Greenfield is another person that's getting optimal health and peak performance, and he's doing it a little differently. But what's very obvious is that he's not eating refined carbs, sugars, processed cakes, cookies at all. And
doesn't do alcohol, doesn't do a lot of coffee, but does a little bit of coffee. Interesting thing is that he's in ketosis. He knows he's in ketosis. And, of course, Dr. Pompa is, too, and they kind of went back and forth.
yeah, well, in our group with Dr. Pompa, he recommends the way diabetics check their blood sugar, people that are following this kind of lifestyle check their ketones.
Yeah, and he says now
test.
he can kind of check it just by listening to his body rather than going to the gauges and things. But the thing I found interesting is that he is in ketosis, eating vegetables most of the time. And
Does
he
he?
knows
I didn't get a chance to read this one. Does he put like butter on it? Is he using butter?
He's using butter. He's using a lot of nut butters.
Okay.
He's using a lot of nuts. He's using MCT oil. And he does use butter, but not as much as I do.
So this is a little bit more how I eat. I like my greens. So
Yeah.
he's really not very different from me. Maybe I eat a little bit more proteins that he says, but I'm getting more and more where I'm cutting my protein lower and lower.
And I want
feel
to
better.
continue with Ben because he has some really interesting comments of how to get into this and then how to stay into it and how you're into it. So we'll continue this after the break. Folks, please pick up our Primal Edge Daily Supplement. We just got a new shipment in here. I know it's going off the shelves fast, but we really want you to get involved with the Primal Edge because we think you'll notice the difference in your life and your lifestyle. So if you're eating a good diet, this is the perfect supplement to have. Also, pick up our new Health Signals newsletter, new one coming out right after the 4th of July, and the old one's still there, and plenty of stuff to dig into. So please stick around to do that. The number here is 877-927-6648.
You've heard Nico de Haan as co-host of Living a Primal Lifestyle, which airs every Friday at noon Eastern Time on TFNN, and would like to tell you about the personal training studio that Nico is the owner and president of, Performance Training. Since 1998, Nico has trained individuals and groups to improve their health both mentally and physically. As a certified personal trainer, Nico's main focus is on demonstrating exercises correctly to avoid injury and teaching his clients how to manage their past injuries while getting the most out of their personal training sessions. The Performance Training Studio is filled with unique training equipment that enhances balanced results at a faster rate while minimizing damage and discomfort. For more information, you can give Nico a call at 727-418-8740 or email him at nico@tfnn.com. Let him know you heard him on TFNN and save up to $100 on a special package just for TFNN listeners. Act today.
Tiger TV is an exciting way to experience TFNN programming. See high-definition video, giving you crystal clear charts, as well as seeing some of the faces of TFNN's highly acclaimed financial experts with crisp, full-fidelity sound. Catch Tom O'Brien, John Logan, Steve Rhodes, Basil Chapman, Larry Pesavento, Think or Swim, David White, Andy Hecht, and Daryl Martin in crystal clear, high-definition audio and video. Tiger TV, exclusively at TFNN.com.
Has the current market volatility continued to stop you out of trades when the market spikes against you? Now is the perfect time to open up an account with Nadex. Nadex, the North American Derivatives Exchange, is a brand new, completely regulated Chicago-based exchange, and unlike most other exchanges, Nadex allows you to trade directly through them with direct market access when using their completely free trading platform, which also features real-time charts and full customization capability. One of the advantages of trading with Nadex in volatile markets is that your risk is always capped and you have the ability of keeping your trades open even when the market spikes against you. Nadex is completely brand new with a line of unique trading products that are unavailable anywhere else. See how it works at nadex.com. That's NADEX.com. Or click on the Nadex banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Futures and options trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for all investors.
Many of our new listeners have heard about the Tiger's Den, but wondered, what exactly is it? The Tiger's Den is a lively community where professional traders and investors can meet, exchange ideas and information in a comfortable, moderated atmosphere. Hear all of your favorite TFNN shows, plus see all the charts as they happen live during those shows, and have access to all those charts. You can test drive the Tiger's Den absolutely free for 30 days. It will greatly enrich your knowledge of these markets. Details on the Tiger's Den are on the front page of TFNN.com. This segment is brought to you by Think or Swim. For more information, just click the Think or Swim banner on the front page of TFNN.com.
And welcome back to Living a Primal Lifestyle. I'm Paige, Clarke, and Nico Haan. We've been talking about different ways to become superhuman, and specifically we've been talking about Ben Greenfield, who is really teaching a different way to have a superhuman, healthy body, mind and spirit, and work out right. And he really used a little different approach than others, but the end result is super health.
No doubt about it. And one of the things that he mentions is that, of course, he's an athlete that's in ketosis. So he's done several different experiments, which they were talking about on the podcast, that I found very interesting. First of all, fasting for 48 hours and then working out. And seeing no change whatsoever. Which is amazing.
I think this is so hard because people that work out feel like they have to fuel their bodies, and if they put that fuel in their mouth, that's what they're going to burn. They want to burn the fuel that's stored all over their body. They need to fast.
There you go.
Fasted workout is very effective.
Yeah, so he went on this big bike ride with these guys who, they had the big breakfast, the carbohydrates the night before, and go for a 50-mile ride. And a couple of them probably didn't eat enough, so they were crashing a little bit, finding it hard. And he had fasted for 48 hours and went on the bike ride, no problem at all. Boom, level the same. And one of the critiques that some of the athletes were saying, well, you're not doing any better. He says, yeah, I'm not interested in doing better. I'm interested in doing the same and not being hungry and not going up and down and not having to worry about anything because I've got the energy stored in my body already. And it's always there. And this goes back,
hundreds
of course.
of thousands of calories we have stored in our body.
Exactly. It's the fuel. And the reason he did that, because he wanted to kind of experiment, what would happen if you hadn't eaten for a few days and now you have to hunt?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it doesn't make sense in the modern way of thinking. Now you're in the Serengeti plain of Africa or Holland or wherever it is, and now you have to hunt and you haven't eaten for 3 days. And you don't have your little carb shake or anything like that, and you don't have a banana to eat.
And you're going to get all freaked out, and cortisol is going to spike. Because
unless you're in ketosis, where you've got a nice frame of mind, you've got a clear head, you're stealthy, you can still do all the things and probably better.
I agree, and I like his thinking, and he's a young guy, and he's fit, and he's giving people an idea. And again, that's what I love about Dr. Pompa. He kind of goes outside the box. He talks to other thought leaders.
Yes, he does.
And it doesn't mean you don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. None of us are telling you have to do it the way we're doing it. You have to find the way it works best for you. Yeah. But I think you have to look at the science that says this, we've got to activate this fuel that we have inside.
And then he had another analogy, which I use often. What if you're stuck out in the middle of nowhere, you're not anywhere near civilization, you're in the woods, and now you have to eat? Of course, he's very knowledgeable about what he eats, and he eats a lot of plant foods and mushrooms and things like that. So if you're out in the woods, the first thing I look for is mushrooms, the fungus. And the next thing I look for those leafy greens, and I see the berries if they're there. And if I'm lucky enough to catch a small animal or a snail or a snake, or I find some protein in animal form, then I have that. But, the first thing I would look for is always the hunting. But now there's a different aspect to it, too. My dad always was really huge in looking for mushrooms when we went out. And he had all these mushroom books, which I have some of them. So I think that's a good thing for us to study anyway, because if we're still talking about that grand minimum of the sun coming in, and the next, I think, 5 to 10 years is going to be problematic for climate on planet Earth. And because of this way of thinking, of course, I'm storing some food in cans, but I'm also getting some books to find out what kind of wild things are growing in my area that I can eat, what kind of mushrooms, what kind of bark could I be looking at, where can I find and how can I trap small animals, all these different things, and how can I get tools that will help me accomplish this in case that happens.
How to be self-sufficient.
How to be self-sufficient is very important.
I think when we look around and look how our everyday life is based on the system, based on the system that there's gas in the trucks so the trucks can deliver the food. And a lot of people have said if there was any disruption in the system, within 2 hours, stores would be out of food. So this is not being too far out. It's actually being quite grounded in,
I think so, yeah.
in learning how to survive. So I think that's super.
Well, our ancient ancestors, the part of learning in life is really learning how to survive on your own. This is what everybody was taught from a little kid on. I remember that quote from that Eskimo up in northern Canada in the 1920s when the Board of Education from Canada went up there and says, we got to put your children in school because how are your children learning? And the Eskimo says, well, they're right beside us.
Right. Right, learning right along.
Right alongside of us. They go everywhere with us, and they learn from what we do. And not many children can say, I'm learning what my parents are doing because I'm with them constantly.
Right.
We're with them just a very short time.
And I think that, when I look at a lot of today's people and people that are having to work and their children are going to daycare and they have a lot of that guilt, should kids be with me or not? But I think the important thing is balance, because in a primal setting, it took a village. So many times, the children were with a group of people. So if you really look at it, your pre-K thing, if you choose the right kind of thing, can be like the village. It just has to be in balance. You've got to spend time with your children, too.
The village has changed because we're traveling a lot more. We're going to farther distances, but we still have that community association in a sense because we can form new communities at our work. We form it maybe at jiu-jitsu or whatever else you're doing, or at the gym, at perhaps the places where you get food, farmer's market, maybe the health food store. These are different kind of communities, so we can form different communities. Community is important, but I've always said that the first community was always based on food. Anywhere you go in the world, especially towards indigenous people, you'll find community is about the food. Everybody comes together for the food.
To find the food, to grow the food, to prepare the food, to enjoy the food, and to enjoy each other's company.
And that's how you learn about people. When you learn with a community that's eating together, you learn a lot about their habits, about who to trust, who not to trust, who to go to for certain things. That's the way community was always built, and I think we need to get back to that, maybe a little bit different way, because we do have technology that does that. But I don't think things like Facebook and Twitter and those types of things add anything to community. I think they more or less divide community. They do keep you in contact. I mean, I love hearing things from my kids.
It's like anything else. There's pros and cons to both, and it's about trying to find a balance.
Yeah, because I always want to disconnect, but then you have that fear of disconnecting completely because then you don't hear from your kids as much, and maybe you're not...
Exactly. There's that catch-22, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, so it's confusing for sure.
Speaking of disconnecting, let's go on to this article about long visits to nature linked to improved mental health, studies find. So as you said, sometimes you need to disconnect. We often say sometimes we have to disconnect to reconnect. And this study, this article was in SciPost.org. It said people who visit parks for 30 minutes or more each week are much less likely to have high blood pressure or poor mental health than those who don't. And this was according to new research by Australian and UK environmental scientists. I think you and I shared a very interesting research article on forest bathing. Remember that?
Yeah, sure
forest bathing is something that's done regularly in Japan. Japan, highly populated country. They have these forests where people actually go to walk and reconnect. And that's a lot about reabsorbing the energy or the frequency of the earth. But the science is also panning out and showing better health markers as a result of disconnecting so they can reconnect. It looks like we're going to have to take a short break, but maybe we want to continue on this subject.
Well, this makes a lot of sense because, of course, the trees and brush gives us one beautiful thing, which is oxygen.
Absolutely. We get more oxygenated. We're getting electrons by connecting with the earth. So we'll be right back. Make sure to pick up some Primal Edge and call us for your questions. We're here, 877-927-6648.
You know what's cool? Taking something that's good for you. Something specifically formulated to help with weight loss, better sleep, stress reduction, and the need to detox.
Nico, our hunter and gatherer ancestors found all their nutritional requirements for health in their wild environment. But today, our food sources no longer contain the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients our bodies need to stay healthy and strong.
That's why we need Primal Edge Daily Nutrition. It includes a special blend of ionic, soil-based vitamins, minerals, fatty, and amino acids in an easy-to-use liquid form.
Primal Edge is powered by highly concentrated fulvic and humic acids, nature's preferred delivery system. They have been called miracle molecules because, like sunlight, air, and water, life cannot exist without them.
That's right, Paige. They ensure we receive all the nutrition we need to be healthy and thrive. We take it every morning.
Primal Edge, formulated and approved by Nico and Paige of Living a Primal Lifestyle. Buy it today for just $89. Click on the Primal Edge banner on the front page of TFNN.com.
Tom O'Brien's weekly gold letter, The Gold Report, gives complete and concise coverage of the entire gold market. Inside, you'll get Tom's commentary on gold, the dollar, the rand, the bond, the XAU, the HUI, and detailed coverage of nearly 25 mining stocks. He'll give you the entry price, price target, and stop price of each stock trade. The Gold Report is a long-term newsletter where the focus is on building real wealth through the management of a successful portfolio of gold stocks. With a lifetime of knowledge and almost 12 years of writing his informative weekly newsletter, The Gold Report, Tom O'Brien can provide you with the important market information to help you make better trades in the gold market. Don't let the next bull run in gold pass you by. To get a month-long free trial to The Gold Report, an $85 value, visit the front page of TFNN.com today.
David White's newsletter, The Technology Insider, is focused like a laser on finding the next big things in technology. If you had invested only $10,000 in Microsoft in 1986, you'd have been a millionaire by 2000. Disruptive technology like Microsoft's is the key to these massive long-term profits, and the Tech Insider is the vehicle from TFNN to capitalize on these opportunities. This is the go-to newsletter that identifies, monitors, and profits on mostly little-known cutting-edge companies with great long-term prospects. David's experience is as an inventor of Emmy-winning animation products for TV and Hollywood that propelled a company public. Match that with 14 years as a full-time trader, and he's uniquely qualified to guide you through the light-speed world of ever-evolving high-tech. If you're ready to ride the next big technology bull market for less than $40 per month, log on to TFNN.com and get your 2-week free trial to the Technology Insider. Get in on the ground floor of the next big thing today.
This segment is brought to you by TFNN. Test drive all the newsletters for free at TFNN.com.
Welcome back, folks. Paige and Nico here on Living a Primal Lifestyle. We're talking about
being an outsider and staying healthy. And look at that picture. I don't know if people can see it on the telestrator. The girls in the forest, and that's exactly where I want to be. Look at that. Long-term visits to nature, linked to improved mental health, and I think that's almost a given. I think everyone knows they feel better when they're outside.
Just going into the Redwood Forest a few weeks ago, I mean, I was just thrilled. But anytime you go into just a green space, it does make a difference.
You're getting all those negative electrons.
Yeah, just going barefoot on my front lawn, I can feel the difference. So imagine if you're just surrounded by these beautiful, beautiful forests or wherever you are. I mean, I get the same feeling even if I go to Joshua Tree Monument, which is mostly desert.
Yeah. Well,
So-
it's the idea of just being outdoors, I think. And, you know, this group that was doing some research in Australia, they were like, how can we encourage people to spend more time in green space when there's evidence of its great improvement in improving overall physical and mental health? And we need support and encouragement of community activities in natural spaces.
Yeah, and I think we need help with the children, too, because our children are always, of course, changing their posture by constantly looking down at their devices.
Well, everyone's got tech neck.
Yeah, everybody's got tech neck, so disconnecting is huge, but you can also take your device with you. I mean, it's not like you're going that deep in the forest, but if you do, that's an extra bonus, disconnecting, I think. You can always come back, you know. So I think this is huge. I think the benefits are huge in that, and it says right here, people who visit parks for 30 minutes or more each week are likely to have
Less high blood pressure. Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about that, and less poor mental health.
Yeah.
And
than those who don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And our children especially benefit from spending more time outdoors. Kids who grow up experiencing natural environments may benefit developmentally, but they also have a heightened environmental awareness compared to those children that don't have outdoor access. And that concerns me when we think of all the children, all the multiple hours they might spend in front of video games instead of engaging with nature, that they would also, as adults later, not respect nature the way they should.
Yeah, it brings me back to that movie I was watching last weekend called The Kentuckian, which was Burt Lancaster. And him and his boy were leaving Kentucky and going to Texas. So they were living outside, hunting and things like that, so sleeping outside. And this is, of course, what they've done all their lives, pretty much. And they reach a spot where they're a little bit into trouble, and now his kid has to go to school. And he's sitting as close to the window as he can. He's always caught looking outside, wanting to be out there, not having his head covered. And that's how much of a disconnect we are compared to people who lived 10,000 years ago or more, or maybe less. Or so people are still doing that, of course, too. But it's when you spend a lot of time outside and then you go inside, there is a huge difference in just the feeling of what happens to you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that staying healthy is not just a physical thing, it's a mental thing, it's a whole body thing. And that's important. I wanted to go over, if I can catch a hold of this, Nico, I wanted to kind of look at this article. I thought I threw it into Instapaper, but I'm not seeing it right now, regarding this indoctrination, how we hear one thing in the news regarding, say, for example, this study that came out of the University of South Florida. I posted it on Facebook this week. It's huge, showing that cholesterol is not associated with early death. In fact, the older you are,
the more cholesterol you have, you need.
Well, that you should, that you live longer, the higher your cholesterol is. And this received widespread, it was spread wide, far and wide. And what has happened is then
other articles come out.
Then you see an article from something like the Daily Mail that says, "Don't give up your statins." Experts say, warning that many patients who have stopped taking this vital drug, well, that was the big red flag for me, have put their lives at risk. And there's fears, although people have had fears over side effects, these statins are saving lives. And folks, this is where I believe this is an article that points directly to lobby pharmaceutical dollars that paid for this article to come in, because they said, wow, too many people, social media-wise, saw that damning article that was a 68,000 person study that showed the longer you live longer, the older you are,
the more cholesterol
if you have higher cholesterol.
That's great.
And
well, the interesting thing is, too, I know people that at the age of 55 automatically went on statins without having a problem, because they're in the medical community. And they say, why not play it safe? Well, it's pretty scary. They've been
indoctrinated to think that that's playing it safe.
Because the medical community thinks that, and that's the way they've been taught. So no wonder at age 55, you give your wife the pill and say, okay, here, take the statins. I'm taking the statins. Don't want you to get in trouble.
And that's created a wonderful, reliable annuity for the pharmaceutical companies, which is how they look at us. They look at how many people there are.
So this is without diagnosis.
Right.
And so the doctors themselves are doing this in a lot of ways. Not all. There are some, of course.
And as you know, there's a wonderful website called Space Doc, DOC, Space Doc. And that was written by, his name escapes me, but he was a Apollo medical doctor for the Apollo systems. And he nearly lost his mind, his memory and so forth, from statins, and has spent the rest of his life documenting the dangers of statin drugs on health. But I wanted to bring this point out, is that when you read things, you will see what's the agenda. So you can take a look at any time they say we live longer without a drug, that would seem to indicate that would be more reliable, because it would seem natural that we weren't really designed or weren't born with a Lipitor deficiency. So there's really not an agenda to get that kind of information. Who would benefit by telling you that if you just leave yourself alone, you're healthier? On the other hand, when you see something come out like in the Daily Mail here with all these ads and all this stuff, it's so obvious to me that this article here was a bought and paid for advertisement to create that confusion.
Well, this is interesting because when you're doing research on your own, you're going to run across these things. And not just the drug companies. You'll find people who are vegetarians are going to go along with whatever the vegetarian thinks. People who are paleo will go along with whatever the paleo group. Nobody has a lock on trying to convince everybody else, no matter what, a different way. So you're going to see these things. That's why you need to do your own investigation, because you can actually go through and find out where the stuff is coming from, and then you may see an agenda behind some of the things. But you'll also get to trust some people. Nora Gagatas, Dr. Pompa. Many people out there are on the right path, and you can trust them because you can tell by the way they write, how they're doing themselves. They have evidence-based things that are happening to them and their family. Very important part of it all.
And like I said, and when you're trying to figure out how to figure this out, you take a look at who would benefit if the information you get is true.
Yeah.
And anytime you see a drug company benefit, I would suggest that you should look at that as suspect.
Yeah, you have to dig a little bit deeper and find some opposite views and read those and see what happens, and then you'll probably get to the truth a little bit more.
And I found this article just to kind of wrap this up. The article was a public release on the 27th of June this year. USF professor team, no association between bad cholesterol and elderly deaths. It was a systemic review of studies of over 68,000 elderly people. Also raises the question about the benefits of statin drug treatments. And as a rebuttal, we saw this rash of articles that warned people, created that fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
And bad cholesterol, there's no such thing. There are different cholesterols.
There's different cholesterols, but there's not a bad cholesterol. It has a purpose.
Yeah.
So we got to take a break. We'll get back to you in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Steve Rhodes, host of The Trader's Edge, heard daily at TFNN.com and author of Mastering Probability, a daily investment and trading newsletter service that I send out each morning by 8 a.m. My morning newsletter service covers exactly what the markets have been doing since last night's close, providing you with an edge on your trading day ahead. You get actionable trading ideas, including the exact entry, stop, and profit targets. Plus, I'll teach you the patterns and hidden market correlations that will make you a better trader. As a subscriber, you'll gain access to my 90-minute money management workshop, where I'll teach you the secrets that'll save your assets. The bottom line, I've got your back, including a 30-day money-back guarantee. See for yourself the type of analysis I provide each trading day by signing up for Mastering Probability today. With nothing to lose, this is an offer you should not pass on. Mastering Probability can be found under Trading Newsletters on the front page of TFNN.com.
If you're an active trader looking for that extra edge when it comes to trading and investments, then now is a great time to get a 2-week free trial to Tom O'Brien's daily market letter, Market Insights. Tom O'Brien's daily newsletter, Market Insights, comes out every market day at around 9:30 a.m. and provides Tom's daily commentary on the broad market, including the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P, plus specific trade recommendations. There's even an update published most afternoons to keep you informed about the day's market activity. He'll give you the entry price, price target, and stop price of each stock and option trade. With Market Insights, there's nothing left to guessing. For all the details and to get your 2-week free trial to Market Insights started today, visit TFNN.com.
No matter where you're listening to TFNN programming, you can always access your favorite shows on demand through TFNN.com. TFNN airs live programming every market day from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can view each program by accessing Tiger TV through our homepage. We even have an easy link for all mobile devices, including iPhones, iPads, and Android devices, located in the top right-hand corner of the TFNN homepage. You can use your smartphone to view Tiger TV, but if you don't have a connection that can keep up with streaming live video, then you can simply visit TFNN.mobi in the browser of your smartphone for live streaming audio of all our programs. The mission of TFNN is to educate our audience directly and interactively through our interactive website and call-in talk shows. TFNN is able to teach all levels of investors the technical skills needed to trade in today's marketplace. In order to get the best information possible, TFNN has assembled the most respected financial minds in the country to provide the most current news and comprehensive advice available. TFNN.com, educating investors. Join John Logan as he teaches you trading techniques utilizing the TAS Profile Scanner. The Global Market Pulse, next on TFNN.
Welcome back to Living a Primal Lifestyle. We had a call and someone wanted us to talk a little bit about Lyme disease and what is Lyme disease. And boy, we're hearing more and more about Lyme disease. And it's a very, very difficult diagnosis to get because of the very stealth nature of the bacteria and so forth, and the bugs involved in Lyme disease.
Yeah, mostly ticks, deer ticks, black-legged ticks. These are tiny, tiny, tiny little creatures.
Well, you know, there's a lot of, it'd be interesting to know what Paul, you know, if he's knows someone or has suffered from Lyme disease. It's very debilitating. I believe it's a chronic infection, and you've probably heard me talk about the fact that when the body becomes overwhelmed by bugs or infection, this can lead to what we see, these chronic conditions. And Lyme disease, if you do have it, you probably wouldn't know unless you're one of the chronic sufferers that have probably visited over 30 doctors, because that's usually what happens. People go from doctor to doctor. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I don't feel well. I ache. I don't feel well.
What's going on.
And the tests are highly inaccurate.
Of course, it affects everything. It affects all your organs. It affects your nervous system, your muscles, and your joints, and also the heart. So, I mean, if you have just one of these symptoms, you go to a heart doctor, or you go to the brain doctor, or you just go to your general GP, it can be very confusing.
Well, because you can't diagnose it until treatment is initiated. So really, we recommend people go see an LLMD. And what's an LLMD? It's a Lyme literate medical doctor. And it's interesting, though. This has got a little bit of a mystique about it, about where it actually originated. And could it possibly be something that was originally created in a lab as sort of a bioweapon and kind of got into nature, and here we've got the situation, because it seems strange that...
it just seems to appear in certain areas all of a sudden. I mean, I remember it was in Ohio, I think 20 years ago, we're showing up in some kind of area where there was a legion of people, like
a meeting of some type?
Yeah, a meeting of some kind, and then all of a sudden 7 or 8 people got it. So it must have been bitten by the same
Well, let me just discuss. Lyme is considered by the medical field to be only transmitted by way of a tick infected with bacteria. However, the CDC itself has admitted it's underreported and believes there are between 300,000 to 500,000 new cases each year. That actually makes Lyme disease almost twice as common as breast cancer, and 6 times more common than HIV and AIDS, and yet we can't seem to get anyone to want to call it a real disease or diagnose it. You know, mainstream insurance and stuff, because why? They continue to deny it, because if there's one thing insurance companies hate, it's chronic disorders that they have to spend time and money on.
Yeah, the interesting thing too is it can be passed on if you're pregnant to your unborn. Too. But I think treating it, first of all, the immune system plays a huge factor in this. So the healthier you are in the beginning, the less likely the symptoms, the chronic symptoms will probably never show up. And you may just go along for a while not feeling well, and then after a certain period of time, it'll decline. However, I think it can stay with you a long time too, depending on how healthy you are. I'm not sure about that, but...
Well, it's a very difficult situation to deal with, because it is such an insult on the immune system. And if you have anyone that's working with it, I highly suggest you work with doctors that are knowledgeable about detoxification, about binding biotoxins. See, many times there's a combination of effects. There's heavy metals in the system, parasites and so forth go to areas of heavy metal storage in the body. And so it's really important that there's work with people that know how to help the body get some relief from
kind of out of time, but so you can see how important it is to be healthy and to detox and to do all these things that we always mention. Sorry we're out of time, folks. Been great here, and we'll see you next time.
Stay healthy.
Bye-bye.
Since 1984, Basil Chapman has been using the Chapman Wave methodology to advise traders of his expert market opinion. While originally hand-drawing charts from the late 1970s into the 1980s, Basil noticed that prices under most circumstances virtually always had a certain number of legs to the upside before declining sharply. Later, Basil found that computer software, which included the standard market technical indicators, enhanced the degree of accuracy in calling price turns, as well as market trend calls. Thus was born the Chapman wave sequence. Using the Chapman wave methodology along with other indicators, Basil Chapman advises his subscribers of his expert market opinion each market day with his opening call newsletter. Right now, you can get a 2-week free trial to the opening call, Basil's daily trading newsletter, by visiting the front page of TFNN.com. Cancel at any time during that trial and pay absolutely nothing. Get your 2-week free trial to Basil's newsletter, The Opening Call, today by visiting TFNN.com.
You're watching Tiger TV.